We'll have a look. So first step, SEO. So I've already pulled these up. So this is the website audit or SEO audit for Wally's website. So this is the PDF document that I give out to people that purchase my Simple Site Audit. And it gives you a short little SEO to-do list, or long, depending on how many issues it picks up, for you to go through some of the things you can do, some of the things you can't do. So improving meta descriptions, improving page speed is a bit trickier. We'll get into that once we get down to that. Optimizing your sitemap. There is a simple way to do that, so I'll go a little bit into that. Pages indexable. Sometimes, like, there's some things that you can just ignore. Like, I've likely, whatever this is, I'll get, like, you'll see in a bit, I've likely told it not to index that page, but it's basically just taking the basics on the outside. Headings, you definitely want to make sure you are getting your heading hierarchy correct. There's multiple reasons for that, for readability, like SEO wise. You only want one H1 heading per page, and the reason for that is because that tells Google or search engines that that's the most important. Like, that's where your keyword wants to be. That's where you want to put your keyword, your primary keyword, and it's the most important. I do understand that sometimes you want to make other headings on the page look as big as the H1, and depending on your typography and things like that, like, I've just done a whole change in typography on my website, and it meant I had to change the font size for some of the headings because the typography's base font size might be different. But that's like, if you have other headings on your site that you want to look as impactful as your H1, you can still do that without making them a H1. If you're able to adjust the height or font size of your individual headings, just do that. But the reality is you do only want one H1 per page. Improve internal linking. Yeah, I probably suck at that on Wally's site because it's so basic. Page titles, that's the title tags. I'll go into that. Open graph, see, that's something that's a bit trickier. It's a bit more tech. You usually can get, depending on the website platform you're using, you can usually get some sort of plugin or tool or app, I think is what they're called in Shopify, to do the open graph. So open graph is basically the section that or the HTML, the code that is used and pulled for social media. So if you have WordPress, Yoast usually puts together the open graph quite easily, and it deals with that, I find. But it might just be that you haven't put the images in the right spot for it to pull for the open graph. So we'll see. Let's see. So, and alt text. So let's see. So there's some good things. It's one domain. There's robot text files. It's got, all good. So indexing issues. So one page. All pages are indexable. Well, I'd have to check that. So that's a lot of, I have to say, that is a lot of sitemaps. I don't know why he has so many sitemaps. I'm going to, because essentially you want just one sitemap should do, and see, that has like 15. So, or if you have multiple, you might have a post sitemap, a page sitemap, and then like a shop sitemap or product sitemap if you have multiple, but that just is messy. You don't want too many sitemaps. You can generally, again, something like Yoast should be able to submit the sitemap. If you need to, also, you can create one, I think, or maybe you can only submit them in Google Search Console. We'll have a look in a minute. So yeah, those redirect to that. Well, yeah, but I might just delete them anyway. Canonicals. So canonicals is if you generally only used if you're changing, because canonical is like historical. So only really used if you've moved something. So maybe you've moved domains or something like that. That's when canonical tagging might be useful, but they're all self-referencing, which is what they should be. Meta descriptions. Ooh. So my way of viewing and describing meta descriptions is think of them like if you think of your website as a shop, like a physical store. So the meta descriptions and title tags is what appears in search engines, right? So what that essentially is, if you go wandering the shops, what do you see? So that's what that's what people are doing when they're searching, is they're kind of wandering the internet to find you. So the title tag is like your store signage. So if you go to your local shopping center, it's like Kmart or I don't know, it doesn't really work. Oh no, they do have store. Or Dusk or something like. And then the meta description is basically the store windows. So that's where the products are. That's where that's where they do the little setups to show you how to use the product. So the title tag is big and bold and tells you the most important information. So the store name or your site name or the title of that page or things like that, like what you're selling. And then the meta description goes a little bit more into it, like a store window would. It shows you a little bit more, but it still needs to be super enticing. It has to be super succinct and super enticing. It used to be a case that you needed keywords in your meta description. You don't need to as much. It's still useful, but search engines, and particularly Google, the big boy, they don't tend to care so much about that. They still want it in the title tag. They still, because that's telling them the most important information about your website is the title tag. But in the meta description, you could maybe, instead of using the primary keyword, use some of the secondary keywords. So it's less about ranking, like it would still help with ranking, but it's more about more explanation. So you go into that. So obviously I'm failing quite heavily on Worley's website to properly optimize that. So I don't actually use the cart, and I probably would recommend things like carts and my account pages that are behind some sort of login system, or those aren't ones you want to rank by themselves. You don't want people to just stumble onto the cart page because that's kind of useless as a user journey sort of thing. So that's ones that I would typically no index. I'd go into those pages and no index them, mark them as no index. They may still appear occasionally on these sorts of audits, but if they've got that no index marker, any good SEO person would, even if they did appear in an audit like this, would go, okay, well, that's not being indexed, so I'm not going to actually take that as a negative. And this page here is I created this for Wally's Instagram, so I don't want that indexed. I don't want that to be found because it's optimized for being viewed on mobile, not anywhere else. And that's really bad that that's missing because that's actually a blog that I would want to try and rank. And his about page is missing it, the blog page as well. Oh, I'm failing. So tips and advice would be the category, I assume, but then there's category there. I'll have to look into that. That must be different. Tags. Now, for me personally, because I've dealt with massive site audit at a previous client / employer where we did a massive site audit to try and clear up. They had like 10,000 blogs. So we're trying to clear that up, trying to deal with all of that sort of ranking issues that can happen when you have that amount of content on the site. Pages like the category pages, they can turn into page 1, page 2, page 3, like category pet travel, page 1, page 2, page 3. And it gets to be quite a lot of URLs, which is a lot of crawl budget, which is basically the space or the memory space that Google uses to crawl your site. And the bigger crawl budget, the bigger site size you have, the longer it takes to crawl. And that means the longer it takes to have any sort of impact on your SEO when you start doing the really good stuff to like get it going and do the blogs and things like that. Like if it takes Google or the search engines like a really long time to crawl your website, then they're not going to find those positive signals as easily. So it's always good to keep it as tidy as possible in terms of number of pages. I personally, if looking at what to use, what not to use, what to index, what not to index, because category pages, the problem with no indexing them is it can sometimes negatively impact any blogs that are sitting on that feed. So tend to focus on category, and actually I might, through this process, might actually just delete all of the tags on Wally's site and stop using them, because as you see that, and if you start getting lots, again, this goes back to a previous client where they had like hundreds of tags. So that created a whole, like a page for each tag. Which is like, it's useful in a sense of users to be able to find similarly grouped content if you have 10,000 blogs. But if you are structuring your site well and using these well, categories, because you can do categories, you can do subcategories, primary categories and subcategories. If you're structuring that well, if you're following the ideas that we'll get into down the line, which is like content pillars, and finding those and making sure that you're writing to those, you're like keeping everything within those kind of silos, then you shouldn't need, like users shouldn't need tags to help find the content that they're looking for. Categories should be enough. So I might actually, like I said, delete all of those on Wally's page, Wally's site. And then author pages, that's another one that it's up to you whether you want those to rank individually. Funnily enough, Wally's page is there, but mine's not. My author page isn't there. Oh, heartbroken. Not really. But it doesn't hurt, especially if you're writing and putting your name and face there. Like for Wally, it's not that big a deal because he's a dog. But say you have a pet, like you're a pet brand, you're selling collars and leads. Especially if you've got your own qualifications, so you might be a trainer, you might have be a dog trainer, accredited dog trainer. Having that on your about page obviously is important, but also having an author page where you discuss that and show your qualifications, it adds to your authority. And so it's worth actually having that optimize, your author pages optimize. And it's just again, it's another way for users to find your site. And you can optimize that for particular keywords attributable to you as an individual versus your brand. Because your about page is about your brand, and then this could be about you as an individual. Oh wait, I do have my own author page, but I have a really crap meta description. I actually think that's probably been pulled from the page. I don't know. I don't think I've put that in uniquely because that's a really long meta description. Those aren't too long. I just need to tighten them up. And one tip I do have for tightening up your meta descriptions is maybe using an ampersand instead of an and. Like I would never use it in a blog anywhere. And even like things like dropping things like commas or full stops if it works. Obviously, you don't want to like draw together sentences that don't work. Because it's about character length. And to be fair, actually, it's more about pixel length these days because it's about mobile first and fitting into that little section on the phone. So you can, but that's quick wins. It's like, maybe just get rid of that comma. I know grammatically it's supposed to be there, but who cares? And like with that, and I wouldn't, like I said, I would never use an ampersand in a blog post. but in my meta description I would, or even in a title I would, but not in the actual text. That's just not my thing. But that's a stylistic thing. Some people do actually use them. Yeah, I need to fix those two up. So the problem with missing meta descriptions, too long meta descriptions, and I don't have any too short ones, just missing ones, is the search engines will, they may show that it will get cut off if it's too long. For ones that are missing or too short, again, if it's too short, the search engines may show it. But what they could do is also go, well, that's not good enough. We're just going to do our own and gazump you. And when they do that, they don't always, like, like the first section of your whatever the page is might actually be a good kind of descriptor of what the rest of the page is, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a category page, whether it's a product description. But the problem is you don't know that that's what they're going to pull. They could literally just go crawl your page and pull a random block of text that fits into that meta description section, and then it just doesn't look good when it's like something random in the middle of a blog, or like say it's a product page, instead of the actual description of the product, it's the dimensions or it's a disclaimer or something like that. You don't really want that sort of stuff to be what's there. So I've obviously actually paid attention to those. Page titles. So page titles, like I said, are the signage of your store. So many characters, that's about right. I think, again, it's more pixel length these days, because, it's mobile first, and it's about fitting in that spot. And this is the other thing about category versus tags, is you're likely going to have tags that match the categories, and then it's duplicate content, and that's a whole nother SEO issue. You don't want duplicate content. So those are a bit long. So here it would be a thing for me, would be choosing which keyword I want to focus on. Do I want to focus on contact allergies? Probably the better one would be environmental allergies. So I could just drop or contact, and just, even if I have the page, so the page title, these ones can be different to what you see once you click into the blog or page. This one needs to be short, sharp, and keyword. That's it. That's the main thing, is get the keyword in there. You don't even, like, I like to put this website name at the end. Don't need it if you don't want to. And some websites, like I know on my personal website, Jodie Humphries Writer, it's really long. So I started to shorten it so that I can have a better kind of title, especially for my blogs. So I've started to shorten it to JHW. So it still kind of puts my site title there, but but it allows me to do a bit more with the actual title to make it a bit more enticing. So yeah, this just short, sharp, keyword positive title for your pages. So those are both a bit too. See, this one again, I could just cut the when you go to work and just be like, helping your dog with separation anxiety, and it would get it under, I would assume, get it under the 70. I might need to tweak that one a bit more because it's a bit longer. Yeah, that if I delete the tags, then that will be fine. And then the rest apparently are all good, so they're not listed here. So heading, so this is, like I said, the H1s, you only want one H1 per page. So this is the other thing with, like, because these are auto-populating, these pages, I don't create them. So I have to actually check whether I can make any changes to them, because you can't always do that. Even with WordPress, and like, I'm a big fan of WordPress because of how customizable it is, but even with WordPress, sometimes you need a plugin, or you need to have a bit more techie things that I don't have in order to, but these are all pre-populated. So, and it's quite interesting that they have no H1 tags. That's because there's no heading on them, because they weren't created by me. That one was, and it should have a H1. I have to check that out. But again, that's non-indexable. I'm going to ignore that. So I've done what I told you not to. I've obviously put something else in there that's a H1 and it shouldn't be. That's a, by the way, that's a really basic and shitty H1. I like it and it looks cute. Like if we look at his page, like well, that's a picture, but that's cute. It looks cute, right? But it's not really a great H1. Probably worth actually looking at another H1 further down. And then you got the benefits of health insurance. Yeah, so these are all pretty good H1s. The H1s are one of the key places to put your keywords. So yeah, they're all good. Images. So images, there's two things about images that are important that helps this section too. So the first is alt text. So alt text is both where you can put keywords, but also it's about accessibility for people with screen readers. So you want to kind of try and hit both, but you could also just choose and balance out on your page which images, like if you have 6 images on the page, maybe do 3 that are keyword focused and 3 that are more accessibility focused. But I will say Google in particular, but search engines are leaning more and more into user first. So that involves accessibility, which means that they may start wanting more accessible image alt texts that also include keywords rather than just keyword ones. So what I generally try to do is I will try and write a sentence that includes the keyword and then also describes the image. And like as I go through this case study, I will also I'll be doing some of this, so you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, but that's just see if you can describe the image in a way that includes the keyword, which shouldn't be too hard if you're choosing images for your pages that represent what your pages are talking about. So especially products, like it's like that should be the simplest thing. It's like image of a packet of pet, like crocodile feet pet treat, dehydrated crocodile feet pet treats, and then describe the packaging or whatever. So you've got the keyword in there, but it's also like obviously that's what the image is of, is your treats. So or your bandanas or your leashes or whatever it is you sell, or the services. It might be like dog trainer or your name, dog trainer, teaching whatever breed dog it is to sit, and then a bit of a description of the background, like you might be outside at the park. So it doesn't, like the description doesn't need to get too detailed, but if you can get more detailed the better. But yeah, there's also websites you can go to find out how to best describe images for accessibility and screen readers. So if you want to look into that, just Google like accessibility. Yeah. So page speeds. Page speed's a tricky one. I'm constantly like Wally's is a very basic website, but look at the shitty page speed he's got. Like my page speed's slightly better than that, but it's not a very heavy website. There's not a lot on there except the images, and I probably haven't optimized the images well. So optimizing the images involves alt text, but the other aspect is the size of the images, and that's to do with like physical like dimensions, but also weight, so memory size. So yeah, so that's probably the first thing I would do to try and speed up my page is look at all the images, make sure they're all optimized to be as small as possible, because load times, that definitely hurts them. And I'm pretty sure, because like I said, I threw this whole website kind of together pretty haphazardly and haven't really paid much attention to it over the years. So they're probably all really shitty optimized images. So that's the first thing I'll do. The rest of the stuff that comes with page speed, and to really get into that, you'd go direct to, I just realized that's there, like GT metrics or Google page speed or Pingdom, and put your website in there to do a page speed test, because that's where this is all getting pulled from. I think this is actually from Google page speed. If you put it in there, it'll give you a bit more of a detailed description of where the page speed issues are, and it's likely like CSS or JavaScript. So it's the really techie stuff. And then for that, my best advice for that would be look at plugins or apps that you can get to like minify that and make it smaller on your site. But yeah, that's kind of it. And then internal linkage. Oh my God, I suck at internal linkage. So yeah, none of these should have links. Yeah, we want that. So internal linkage is about site structure. So you want one of the signals to Google or to search engines that your website is useful to people is how long they stay on the website. So in order to get that, you want to have a path around your website, which internal linking is about. None of these really would be linked anywhere. So this is saying that nothing is pointing to these sites, to these pages, sorry. Not that they don't have links on them, it means that nothing's linking to them, whereas these have links to going to them. And of course there's 28 links to the homepage because it's on every page. But so you want, this is more to do with, like, I'd be focusing more on that, not with the categories and tags and stuff. I'd be focusing, when it comes to internal linkage, blogs, making sure similar blogs are linked within each blog. And then the shop. So when you're writing blogs or you're doing pages, having, and I don't just mean like carousels or stuff, but actual, just like, say you're selling treats, and you're doing a blog on how to use your treats for training. You might have like a carousel at the bottom that like has some good of some of your products, but in the actual blog also include a link when you say like give treats when they do good, like the word treats, because that also helps with SEO. When you're linking to these pages, it tells Google or tells search engines that word is linked to that page. So that's another. But that also, yeah, site structure. It's just about leading, and it's about going from that old marketing funnel thing where it goes from awareness, which is like a blog, and it takes you down the path to a sale. Yeah, I think I have no broken links on Molly's site and no internal redirects. Open Graph. So yeah, like this says, Open Graph won't help with your SEO so much, but it's turns a simple link into a more engaging preview. So that's when you share it on social media or and I know, like, you may not be doing this. You may not be sharing your links. Like, you might have your own graphics that you create in Canva or whatever. Well done. That's great. It looks great. Keeping it on brand. But you still want to ensure that your website has these tags and has this all sorted. And yeah, do what I say, not what I do, because obviously that's horrible. But that's a lot of the stuff that I've talked about in terms of category and tags that I don't really deal with, but the blog should be okay. Yeah. See, the homepage isn't there, which means it and it shouldn't be, because I know it's got an image. But sorry, so you may not be sharing the straight link on your social media, but others might. say, like, if, say, I send a link to, say, my mum in Messenger for something that I'm like, oh, check this thing out, rather than it just having an image, a link, it'll show the little preview and a little heading and things like that. Or like people might share it on their Facebook pages. Like just because you may not use that link preview, you still want it there because you still want it to look good when others choose to do it. And people are more likely to click on link previews than they are just links. Um, or at least that's what I've found. So yeah, so get that all sorted. Like I said, like there's probably an app, or Yoast is supposed to do it, but you do have to do some fiddling, so I have to look into that. So yeah, that kind of gives that kind of background. This is the other part of that report. So if you get a simple site audit with me, you also get this. So it shows you all the different page titles for every page, tells you the health score. The document I share with you if you get a simple site audit with me is slightly different because I will actually have a column here that will have the character length there and a suggested new title tag. Same with the meta descriptions. I'll give you a suggestion for a new one. You've got all the links. It tells you page speech for each of them, images without alt text, indexability. See, there's meta. Yeah, see, the cart is being blocked, so it shouldn't. You don't need to worry about it. Number of H1s, whether it's in the sitemap, whether it has any dummy text. Word count, not really necessary. Text to HTML. Probably good balance to have more text than HTML, but the benefit of doing this with Wally's site, because I obviously own it, I have access to the Google Search Console and Google Analytics, means I have this extra data that won't be in anybody else's spreadsheet if I send it to them. That gives you like the clicks and the rankings, but that's this sort of, so here, this is some extra data I get because I have the Google stuff linked in to this. So that's, yeah, a base, and then I go